Hey, good morning, everyone. It's top of the hour, and it's time for Deepwatch. Time for Brett Fountain. Almost time. People are still gathering. I'm gonna step out for just 1 minute and let everybody join the session, and I'll be right back. Hey, welcome everyone. I love that lively music. Thanks for joining today, and I'm excited to get started. So let's just jump right in. Can't wait to hear from Brett Fountain. Brett is head of AWS Alliances at Deepwatch and has done amazing things at Deepwatch, including getting recognition as Rising Star, nomination for Rising Star, coming in second place in the final announcement at reInvent last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess now. And so excited to have Brett here, and congrats to Brett and to Deepwatch. And Cressida Rico, our customer success manager, who's been working with Brett for over a year now on WorkSpan, and just excited to have Cressida here as well. Cressida and Brett are going to have a conversation about a lot of things, about partnering with AWS, co-selling, and all of the things that it takes to be successful and build a program with AWS. So, gosh, I can't wait to get going. I've got a couple of housekeeping things to to get us started. First of all, thank you for joining. Thanks for everyone that's in the session now or listening to the recording. Just thanks for joining, and we appreciate everyone's support, and I know there's just a ton of interest in this topic and hearing about Deepwatch. So if you would, you can add your photo in the Hopin platform. So we're going to be asking questions, or we'll be answering your questions, and if you have your picture in there and your name, then when we bring your question up on the screen, you'll see yourself and introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining from. I'm here in Belmont, California, and really excited to be joining today. Ask questions. We want to make this interactive. I'll pop in and out. Actually, I'll ask questions at the end, after Brett and Cressida have had a chance to chat a bit, and everything's going to happen in the Stage tab, so you can just stay there on the Stage tab in Hopin. Wanted to also share a couple of interesting assets, some things that might be helpful on your journey with AWS. So first of all, we have some information about the WorkSpan Hyperscaler Edition for AWS. And by the way, just hit that with your phone, the QR code, and we'll also drop the links in the chat as well. We've actually done a case story with Deepwatch, and so check out that to get a little more in depth on the things that Deepwatch has done to just get incredible results with AWS and co-selling and driving revenue. And then finally, a self-assessment guide that's in there as well. You can check that out and just see where you are on terms of, your cloud marketplace roadmap. So for actually AWS and Azure and Google, good resource for sort of, figuring out where you are, where you need to go, and how to get there. So before we jump in, just share a few words about WorkSpan. We at reInvent, we announced the WorkSpan Hyperscaler Edition. Really excited about that. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what that's all about. So it's a full stack of capabilities from to really get you to cloud sales ready. So you're cloud sales ready. You're ready to drive revenue with the cloud providers that you're working with, and it includes everything from planning, reporting, marketplace listing, managing your listing on the marketplace, and then co-sell automation. Huge effort there. Connects right into your CRM with a direct connection into AWS, Microsoft, and Google. With AWS, it's AWS ACE, Microsoft Partner Center, and Google Partner Advantage, so that there's no manual work. There's no spreadsheets, uploading things, or having somebody in the back office kind of trying to make sure that everything's updated. It automatically just flows. Any updates that come through are each of the hyperscalers encourages you to do it once a week. But this gives it actually real time, and what we see is that a lot of times companies are just not able to keep up with the number of opportunities that you have, and it might be maybe a 6 to 9 month sales cycle. That's a lot of weeks and a lot of updates, and it's difficult to keep up. So automate that process, and in fact, AWS is mandating it in for some of the top partners, and it's starting to have that same effect going throughout all partners. So, and then managing private offers. If you're in enterprise selling, everything's going to be closed in private offers, where you can manage the pricing and the terms and everything. And WorkSpan helps you to manage that in a way that's automated. You can keep multiple versions and copies and clone previous private offers, and then and take you through the full route until you launch. You close the deal and launch. So really great, some great capabilities there that we're excited and proud about. Why do this? Talked a lot about it, but managing your listing is really critical, because, and here's a sort of hidden secret, but if your customer is also on AWS, and typically they have built some or agreed to some pre-committed cloud spend that they're going to spend throughout the year. And if you have your listing in the marketplace as well, they can actually buy that using the pre-committed cloud spend. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like, as a partner leader, you're able to help out the sales team, because there may be budget that the line of business says, hey, we can't buy your product because we just don't have the budget. There's a hidden budget here, and it's in the pre-committed cloud spend. Make sure that you're owning your own listing. There are some vendors that actually take over your entire listing. Make sure that that's not something that happens. You want to own your listing. Co-sell automation. Get ready for scale. Get ready to grow and continue to grow your revenue and your visibility with cloud providers. And then managing offers. I talked a little bit about this already. Enterprise, pricing agility, and you want to make sure that you're able to transact in the marketplace. So a lot of times, especially in enterprise, it requires that you're able to do private offers. So, all right. So why do this? Well, this is some data from a customer, one of our customers, and we have many that look like this, where they were kind of bumping along. They just really were challenged by doing everything manually, and you see that they, like the number of referrals they were able to share and get back was minimal. And as soon as they turned on automation, boom, like immediately they just started kind of pumping all of their partner opportunities over to partner originated referrals over to AWS. And you can see over time, they are really just getting the attention of the field. And it's like, this is the ultimate give to get. They're putting a lot of opportunities into ACE and then closing deals. And by the time, after a period of time, they're like at parity and getting as many coming back as they are sending over. So just, this tells the story. This is the reason to do co-sell automation, and it's really powerful. So check that out. Other benefits as well. I mean, anytime you're partnering with your partner-led deals, these are just industry statistics, but we see it with our customers as well. 27% higher win rates, faster sales cycles, and increase in pipeline. It's just a phenomenal way to really hit your revenue targets and grow the business. And we're going to hear about that from Brett in just a moment. So WorkSpan, over $50 billion in joint pipeline managed on WorkSpan. We're the number one provider for AWS, for ISVs, GSIs, and MSPs. So if you look at the numbers, over 154,000 referrals exchanged between AWS and partners on WorkSpan. And we have some great customers that we really appreciate and are honored to be helping. So we'd love to help you as well. Okay, with that, let's jump in. Oh, wait a minute. Before we jump into that, just this morning, like hot off the presses, about an hour ago, Jay McBain published and Canalys published their Global Co-Sell Software Leadership Matrix. Gosh, we are so excited and honored to be at the top right in the champions area, and it's exciting to see this happening, because not just for WorkSpan but for the industry, because we've been out here for a long time kind of championing this category and saying, hey, things are different, things are changing, and to manage partners in an effective way, you need to think about it differently. And we're seeing a lot of new entrants into the category for modern partner management, and just really excited and grateful that Canalys has put WorkSpan at in the leader of leaders. And so check that out. I've also put the QR code for Jay's post this morning. Okay, now we'll get going. So Brett and Cressida, I'm going to bring you guys in.
Hey, Chip.
Welcome. Oh, hello. Well, congrats, Chip, and congrats to the WorkSpan team. That's huge for you guys to be in that champion category. It's no accident. I thank you, and I'm glad that's a nice validating moment that I feel like I'm doing the right thing, got the right partnership here.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Brett. Yeah, it's exciting and exciting morning, and it's been a lot of work to get here. So thank you, and congratulations also to you, Brett, for your recognition as the nominee for Rising Star, and then coming in as runner-up for the and the great announcement at reInvent. Just amazing work.
Appreciate that. That's been a rocket ship of our own journey over here too, and happy to talk a little bit more about that. But a Partner of the Year nomination was, I head down, just firing off as fast as I possibly could. I didn't even think about something like that coming through. So I think it's a great testament to everything that Deepwatch has been doing, and thank you for the relationship, because we wouldn't be able to get here without you.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you, Brett. And I love to hear more about sort of your journey and how you got there. I'm going to leave it to Cressida to dive into some more of this, and I'll leave it to you guys. Leave it in your good hands. And Cressida, thanks for joining and being a part of this. And I'm gonna step out and take it from here. Okay,
Thanks.
fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Hey, Brett. So, you excited for today?
I am. Nice to be on a call with my ride or die at WorkSpan, helping a Deepwatch.
I know it's. I have been reflecting on how long we have been working together, and I think it's been right at a year's mark now, which is incredible because time really does fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, as I recall, and I'll just kind of dive deep into here. When we first started working together, you were a one-man team, and it was so hard to catch your time. You were so busy. I know you were also busy trying to build up your team as well around this time last year, as I recall. And during the time of these past 12 months, it's been incredible to see your team grow, your success grow. And I know you have a wealth of information to provide to a lot of our listeners today. So I'll be asking you some questions, and I know you will provide some really good content for us. So, we'll just kick in. So, what is it that's unique about Deepwatch's solutions that resonate with AWS?
So one of the things that, when I saw the opportunity of what Deepwatch was potentially doing out there and how we could build up the relationship with AWS, it's one of the things I analyze, and I think about, how can we win the hearts and minds of working in the co-sell together with AWS? Because it's as much about understanding the compensation of an AWS seller to also what motivates them. Mm-hmm. And in the way that we're set up today, like we lead in the space with actually helping drive workloads into the cloud and increasing consumption in the cloud, because our superpower as a partner to AWS is actually eliminating, fear of the cloud, call it cloud phobia, for lack of better words. A lot of customers that are early in their journey to go to AWS it's a whole new journey. It's a whole new area. You don't own the ingress egress points anymore. You don't own the technology in the same sense. You don't have a bunch of experience because it's not your traditional, Palo and Checkpoint and CrowdStrike. It's cloud native tools like RDD and CloudTrail and Security Hub. And most customers, they look at that and they say, well, what the hell do I do with this now? And so that tends to be, security tends to be as much of a blocker as it is an absolute accelerator. And, where we were as an advanced technology partner, really, leading the enterprise when it comes to resilience and the outcomes that we're looking for, AWS was a great fit for us, and just kind of unlocking that journey and being the great, call it translator to AWS sellers to what we do has been just highly, highly successful in our relationship, both from, driving more consumption on our own. We're a digitally native business to AWS as a ISV out there today, but on making their day-to-day lives a little bit easier in part of that journey. And that seems to be, for me, what really catches the hearts and minds of AWS sellers.
I love that you said cloud phobia. That's a really great way to put it, because it is something that is so complex, especially for newcomers that come in, to be able to, there's no playbook, right? You kind of have to figure it out as you go. So one of the key things that I think would be important to talk about is, how did you get the field sellers' attention when Deepwatch first got into the space?
So leading with intent and having a really, really well-defined message about what are the superpowers of Deepwatch. There's, I say it on a regular basis, there's, beyond the global partner community of 100,000 plus partners out there everywhere that want to work with AWS. There's in North America, there's a couple special programs that you can be invited to, or you have to get into publicly, like ISV Accelerate. I mean, just in North America alone, there's more than 1,000 in ISV Accelerate, and that's just on the ISV side. Mm-hmm. There's a ton on the consulting partner side. There's a whole other, big book of business on the SI and GSI side. So, imagine being an AWS seller. So I always put myself in their shoes first. I don't lead with the the over value proposition of what Deepwatch is. And it's very important, and we get to that, but we start with really identifying like, hey, what is my superpower? Making sure that they know what is my divisional placement. Why am I in the room with them having a conversation about this right now? Trying to be everywhere at once inside of AWS is absolutely impossible. And a lot of people take that for granted. So getting really succinct on your message to AWS sellers, how you're going to drive consumption together, where be really clear with your ask and how you need their help. And then ultimately, what is a superpower for the customer? How are you going to help them drive consumption? How are you going to help them drive more workloads and feel more secure in the cloud? We all know, it's all been proven, that the cloud is more secure than on-prem. But again, people are afraid of those things. And when you kind of coach and enable and give guidance and really lean in a different way, I feel like a lot of partners, they have a bad start in that direction, because you got to think about the scenario that an AWS seller is in today. 1,000 plus just on the ISV side, and we're only talking North America. Now there's APJ, EMEA, APAC, so on and so forth. That's just the partner side. They also have 275 of their own products that they have to master, and they're expected to increase revenue by 50% throughout the year. That's an insurmountable challenge. So if you don't know exactly how to talk to an AWS seller, you're probably going to waste their time, and good luck getting back in front of them again. So having a very direct message, leading with intent around why you want to work with AWS, how you want to help the customer, and your superpower to understand why everybody knows that you're in the room. You start with that. You lead with that, and then you get into the nitty gritty of how you can help each other win the opportunity, influence the opportunity, or maybe even open up the opportunity to drive your pipeline. But your message to the field seller, it's probably one of the most important things that you can have ready anytime you have that one chance with one of those field sellers, again, because of those reasons. If you're a field seller and you've got a couple thousand partners banging on your door every day, it's going to be unlikely you're going to remember my specific value proposition and how cool the Deepwatch name is. But if I tell you how we're going to accomplish a couple of these things and be really prescriptive in the way that you approach the sales process and co-selling with AWS, you're going to have a lot of success.
And along the lines of that prescriptive messaging, as you call it, would you say that you guys have done something specifically as far as marketing to these AWS field sellers? And any examples you could provide?
Without giving up too much of my secret sauce, because I'm going to give up that good stuff. Again, I think let's say from when I start with divisional placement and understanding your superpower. So I'm not going to go work in startup. That's just not my place. It's not where I need to go play. I need to be really, again, take a look at your entire pipeline, work with your PDM, understand which every single one of your accounts are today, and that's your playground. Don't go play outside your playground. Again, AWS is too big. You can mess that up. So when we approach all my alliance team salespeople, we lead in specifically with two big things, right? Here's how we drive compensation for an AWS seller. And that's super important because AWS will never be in your channel, period. Never going to be in your channel. You can't spiff them. They can't be in an incentive program. You get to work your way into those incentive programs, or you get a special invitation into those programs. So when you call those things out, those are the things that'll ring the bell for an AWS seller and really get their attention. If you come in and the proverbial show up and throw up, you're not going to get anywhere, because they don't really care about what your solution does unless you know how to translate that and how it drives consumption and how it's customer obsessed to give the customer a really strong outcome. So I lead in with the fact that I speak native Amazonian. I'm going to talk about how they're compensated, how they retire quota, how they're commissioned in their words. Now I'm not going to give you up all that secret sauce right now, but I start there. Then we lead into what's our superpower for the customer, and then we get into the nitty gritty. Once we've built trust, and that's that first phase. You have to build trust. It's an AWS principle, one of the 16 pillars of leadership. And if you start there and you're speaking native Amazonian with the Amazonians, don't try to convince them to speak your native language. We have our different versions of PO versus what they call PO and AO and PO and so forth, so forth. The further you lean in, the easier it's going to be to make a friend.
I love that. You're dropping all these good bits of words. Native Amazonian. I love it.
Native Amazonian.
As far as that, are you also bringing in not bringing in, but seeking out specific teams and leaders to catch their attention as far as from the Deepwatch perspective, or from you as Brett Fountain? Like who are the people that you're going after to get front and center, and how are you doing it?
So let's say that's strategic versus tactical, right? So day to day, our mantra and our mission is to be friends and be in front of as many account executives inside of AWS as humanly possible. It's, again, because of those reasons I talked about, thousands of partners out there remaining relevant in some form or fashion, whether it's automation at scale, the people side of it works better than anything else. Having that in-person relationship with the sellers, it goes light years further than just regular Zoom calls and a little follow-up cadence. When you build that relationship, that's number one. And I believe that most of the really impactful things that happens in our relationship with Amazon and AWS is at that tactical field seller to seller level. Equally as important is the beautiful ISM community inside of AWS. Those are my people. These are my alliance folks. Same on the inside versus the outside. We're both on the same mission. And so understanding what makes them tick, same thing. It's really, really important. They can be as much of a firewall as an absolute rocket enabler to get in front of their sellers. I've had some of the, my favorite ISMs that I've worked with in AWS for years, some of the OGs, some of the new ones, they can get in and really unlock where a lot of the sellers are they don't know you. This is the first time they worked with you. They're afraid to talk about anything. The ISMs kind of give you like the blessing, like, okay, these are good ones. You can work with them, share everything you want to share, give them your list. Let's do account mapping, all that kind of stuff. And they evangelize the ever-living crap out of you for the ones that really, really lean in. And those relationships are equally as important as anybody else. The ISMs, at least in general, will cover, still like to say, enterprise engaged ISMs will remain enterprise engaged ISMs. But a lot of account territory, especially with this year, tend to move all over the place. Like there's a whole vertical exchange happening right now in enterprise engaged, where historically it was anything over, they spend $1.3 million with AWS, they get to be in that enterprise engaged bucket. And it was kind of regional based, different teams cover the Northeast, Southeast, et cetera. Now it's going to industry verticals. So it's going to get more specific at those different individuals and the things that you're going to have to go after. Again, also why, kind of like back to your question, specific teams, know your industry vertical, right? Like for me, for Deepwatch, it's finance, manufacturing, and healthcare. I do have lots of stuff outside of that, a lot of big footholds and sled and things like that, but picking three and getting really focused on it is a great way to find a lot more success. So that's one of the big changes that are going to be coming later this year, whenever they finally announce it.
That's great. That's some really great information to provide the audience here. So now, thank you, Brett, for kind of walking through, the importance of really getting front and center with field sellers. Now let's switch gears a little bit. I recall early on, you had mentioned that one of the keys to your success was getting AWS MDF funding. And what you've done with that has been incredible to see the success over the past 12 months. So talk to us about, what did you do to get that funding and how did it impact your success?
That's a good one. That's a really dynamic space. AWS MDF funding, it's an ever changing ecosystem all on its own. And for those who have not managed that before, there's AFPF, so Amazon Funding Partner Portal, or one of those acronyms, one of the other gazillion acronyms. And then there's Pay Central on top of that too. So you've got to get, just the management behind it alone can be pretty significant, right? Much less the manipulation and understanding of all the different great ways you can use MDF. So, when I started here, again, one-man show, cowboy, just shooting from the hip, just trying to make this whole thing work, working on developing budget, other things that we're going to do throughout the year, whether it's going to be fun marketing things or more webinars or renting Ferraris or whatever the heck we're going to get into. Having a limited budget allowed me to help the company lean in further into AWS and get a lot more love out of AWS. And so I think a couple of the most significant things that we had from there this year is one, Deepwatch was at the cornerstone of change last year when you're now allowed to use AWS MDF for during a major ancillary event, to have your own event. And our big claim to fame last year was we were the official launch party for Reinforce, which was a great honor being brand new in the partnership. I mean, we were 6 months into it last year, And to be the official name on the launch party for Reinforce was a pretty great thing. But a lot of that came from kind of working with the MDF funding team, helping actually change the rules that was better for all partners. So that was a great, right? And then again, having limited resources, being a one-man show, finding other ways to use MDF dollars, like working with a consultant for marketing on the outside, helped me scale. So I was able to create new assets, ebooks, webinars, all sorts of stuff, leveraging some of my funding and then some of AWS MDF funding. So those are some of the interesting ways to use it beyond traditional, hey, let's put on a webinar, or let's go do happy hour or some type of whatever in-person event. Getting more creative with that to help you scale from an automation perspective is a great way to help just get there. And so MDF dollars it's just overall a great way to further evangelize what we're doing together with AWS and extend my budget to touch more people with AWS. And I'll leave you with this one great example. So AWS last year wanted to do more creative things, and one of the areas that they wanted to lean in on was their Twitch Security Live TV show. And a good friend of mine was one of the main hosts there, a couple of them actually. So it was Ryan Orsi, big foundational leader inside of AWS, former Office of the CISO, Merritt Bear. And they had this great Security Live TV show, but Merritt spent part of a year in Miami. So I thought, well, how else can I use MDF versus a traditional webinar to make this way more exciting? So I used AWS MDF dollars, some of ours, and we rented a Ferrari. We got somebody to donate a house, and we did the Security Live shoot with a Miami Vice intro because
That's amazing.
We were busting bad guys in Miami. Yeah. So, we had to have it. So I got my CTO and the Office of the CISO, Merritt Bear from AWS, pulling in a convertible Ferrari, and then we had a great kind of pre-filmed webinar photo shoot thing after that. So and
it all got approved. I saw the video. It's a great one. If you Google it, it's a great one. It's a perfect example of how to be, don't be afraid of creativity. I think, like you said, everyone tends to always be safe and go the webinar route or do something simple. But I think it's important as partners want to stand out, especially in the AWS space, you have to be a little bit creative and push the boundaries. So with that, Brett, like creativity we're hearing is something that maybe partners should consider a little bit more, especially as they plan for next year. What other advice would you give partners that are looking to achieve similar success, and can anyone use the same tactics that you've referenced to?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, you got to stand out. Again, thousands of partners, everyone wants to do something basic or this or that. And especially the big customers we want to get into, even from that regard, get more creative. Every enterprise CISO out there can buy their own steak dinner. They don't want yours. They want either something that delivers very significant security value. Now, this is security vertical, of course, or an incredible, memorable experience that they couldn't get on their own, or obviously wouldn't mind you paying for it, kind of thing. But creativity is key. So because of things like that, before the Miami Vice style Security Live TV show, we wanted to do a security series talking about like the wild, wild west of security, or talking about speaking security from the ranch kind of perspective. And we wanted a real fireside chat with an actual fire. So we had a big foundational leader from AWS come down. I'm blessed to have a family ranch here in Texas, and brought my CTO in and filmed for 2 or 3 days, and really bonded with the people that were down there, and created some really exciting content, which again kind of leveled up the standard of other partners. Like, well, when they're coming to AWS, it's actually creating more of a fight for them, which is good for me, because as they say, oh, let's do another webinar series, and they're like, check what these guys are doing over here. This is way more exciting, right? So what that leads you into is we've already been invited back a second and a third time to the Security Live TV show on Twitch, because it's just fun. People like the format. It attracts a great audience, and AWS keeps leaning in to bring us into more things. And it goes not only to the co-sell and the co-market, right, and all the dark arts of working with AWS, but also co-marketing. So they're all completely intertwined. We've been invited in this last 12 months to we have 10 different invite-only betas and special pilots with AWS, including the most recently announced built-in, which is one of the 5 things that Ruba Borno talked about as one of the most important things we had throughout this year. And that was, again, leaning in and bringing an idea to AWS, saying, hey, I want this as an outcome. So think of your creativity that solves for something that's customer obsessed. If you bring it to AWS, they'll help you build it. It's an incredible opportunity. And we've done this, and again, in a very short amount of time. I mean, I'm 2 years into the relationship with AWS now. We're in the Cool Kids Club special compensation programs. We're in 10 different betas that are open right now. They lean in so many different ways, it'll blow your mind. Just the content that's been created, all the assets, and having all the people on the AWS front to help us scale is just an incredible motion. I mean, doing this on your own, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's really been amazing to see the growth you guys have had over the last year. And one of the things to also consider is there's all these pretty things to look at, but I'd also like to dive deeper into what were some of the challenges and obstacles that Deepwatch had to overcome early on, and what strategies did you use to overcome those obstacles?
So yeah, no, that's a good one. So I think the number one challenge was being new, right? There's tens and hundreds of thousands of emerging partners trying to figure out how to work with AWS, trying to understand, where do you start, where do you go, how do you get attention, and I'd say that's the hardest part of the journey for anybody new in their relationship with Amazon. It's so big. And where do you start? And there's a million different programs you can be into. There's 150 plus different divisions of AWS. So how would you, like, same thing, good question back to you, how would you be able to get a million people to remember you, right? That's kind of one of the problems that you have with Amazon.
Yeah.
is that's a challenge. Being brand new, who the heck is this new kid on the block? Working your way into all the right programs, because a lot of the AWS sellers have been groomed to follow the lead of certain compensation programs and certain competencies inside of AWS. Like they don't have a lot of trust in you if you're not, let's say for us, we're modern compute, level 1 MSSP competency, and built-in, all things that we built together with AWS as foundational partners on a lot of those different competencies that have come out with, right? So a little bit of those are your badge of honor of working with AWS that helps build rapport really, really quickly. So I'd say the last part of that, second part of that, is visibility, right? Pipeline, the way that AWS judges you as a partner. What are your AOs? What are your POs? What do you have? What's your ratio as important? How are you tagging your opportunities? What native services to AWS are you going to influence? Like every time you turn on Deepwatch, is it going to pull in GuardDuty, CloudTrail, Security Hub, Control Tower, all those different things? Those are need to know, right? So you get the attention of everyone from the P&L leaders to the AWS sellers, and even the ISMs. They look at that like ACE as a placement of truth. Do you know what you're doing? Do you have more than a couple opportunities in there? What's your ratio of closed won to closed lost? Those are all different levels of measurement to get yourself noticed. So if you want to get yourself noticed, find those competencies so you can prove that you know what you're doing, that you're badged up by AWS. Get that transparency and start getting people to owe you favors. That's how I call it, right? Everything that we close, win, and launch with AWS, whether it's influenced, originated, it doesn't really matter. I want to make sure that if the AWS is helping me, I'm helping them.
Right. And that's a great segue as we talk about AOs and POs, because one of the great features that WorkSpan has is reporting and being able to showcase that to those at Amazon. So what's been the impact of having WorkSpan for your co-selling with AWS as far as, time savings, revenue growth? What can you say about that impact as Deepwatch's success?
Yeah, most certainly. Time savings is huge, right? I first off, I would implode if I did just data processing all day long. So we're not going to have that, right? I got to go out. I need to make relationships, build our strategy, implement the vision that we have around everything that we want to see as an outcome to Deepwatch and the AWS relationship. Not updating, like you said, especially us. We're on the enterprise segment. We've got Fortune 100 customers. Those are not necessarily very short sales cycles. One of the things even Chip talked about when we first kicked this off, are you going to do weekly updates for the next 12 to 18 weeks or however long your sales cycle is, 6 months, 9 months, depending on how big the monster is? We've got customers doing 10 million with us and more. And so just the updates alone would bury somebody operationally. And then I couldn't go do what I do best, which is being in front of the field sellers, building relationships with the ISMs, the district managers, the leaders of leaders, then keeping my eye open for all those new opportunities that are out there, the new programs that are out there. But time savings, I want to say that's number one, right? To implement my vision of building a relationship in a really strong and fast motion with AWS, I couldn't be sitting behind a computer all day doing only that, right? So, this is my third ISV that I've worked for. Second, I've taken into a couple of intimate compensation programs inside of AWS, and we've tried the operational side of it. And I just say that automation is cheaper than people and more dependable. People make changes, people move to different roles, people change the organizations, things like that. And time, I'd say time is the killer of scale. And so, the automation of working with WorkSpan has ultimately allowed me and Deepwatch to get to the place that we want to be, and having, again, I don't want to call it, well, maybe it's called people owing us favors, but hey, look, they're getting compensated, we're getting compensated. We're just winning with a great outcome that is customer obsessed for the customers that we share mutually between AWS. So I'd say time savings, the influence and the revenue growth is as equal to millions and millions of dollars in new business that we've had because of the relationship we have, where we weren't transacting on marketplace before, we weren't sharing at scale and getting a lot of the co-sell support, we weren't in a lot of the intimate programs that drives all the right activity to have AWS help influence and sell on your behalf.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of WorkSpan, is that you can automate so much of your day-to-day, where you said you can focus a lot of that time and energy into other things, like finding all those cool events that you're doing in Miami with Ferraris, right, Brett?
Right. Building your technology, all sorts
exactly.
of stuff.
Building your team, so many other things that you can use that time and energy where WorkSpan can come in and automate a lot of that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, one person climbing a mountain it's a really dangerous and scary, insurmountable task. Maybe you'll eventually get there. I don't want to wait 3 to 5 years to take our partnership to that level. I wanted to do it in 6 months to a year, and we got there in that amount of time.
Yeah. Speaking of, as you look into next year, what's next for Deepwatch? What are you most excited about for next year with AWS? Some challenges, advantages. Talk to us about what that vision looks like.
So I'll start with challenges. It's going to be a very interesting year. There's compensation changes, there's ACE requirements, there's marketplace requirements. AWS again is such an insurmountable beast, right? And as it changes, all partners at a moment's given time you're going to have to reposition ourselves pretty quickly. Like, okay, well, let's say if we weren't doing enough marketplace transaction before, now it's time to pick up pace because it's going to be attached to compensation. What are some of the other changes in some of the partner programs? There's mergers in technology that we don't, a lot of times as partners, unfortunately, you don't get to know until it happened.
Right.
I'd say actually, and big commitment to you guys, when the last major changes were made to the ACE integration, every other partner out there that had an ACE integration was broken and down for a couple of days while AWS fixed their mistake. Of course, they didn't let anybody know. You guys, we didn't have any impact at all. So I'm super proud of the relationship there and not impacting our day-to-day business. But little things like that, right? Those are coming. There's more mergers. There's more verticalizations. There's a whole reorg that's happening inside of AWS right now. Talked to tons and tons of AWS friends, and some don't know where they're going to be tomorrow. They're not leaving AWS. They just don't know what their job role is going to actually be. So that's a really interesting world to be in. It's one thing to be used to the account managers getting new accounts every year or the accounts shifting around, because when you got a couple million customers, it is what it is, right? So I think those are going to be significant challenges. So obviously, as usual, my focus is going to be, all right, how do I align to all the major changes? How do I add that to my talk tracks? How do I speak to the Amazonians in their native tongue to help them, let them know that I'm already aware of it, I'm ahead of the curve, we get how you're compensated, we still know how to drive compensation, here's these other great emerging programs that are happening. So in change, I always see opportunity. Like that's where I'm a sponge, at least to my best ability, is to understand how those things have impacted the relationship. How do we make it better? And how do we talk about it in a transparent fashion with the seller? Now the opportunity. Now as my team has grown, having more technical resources, us really even the business leaning further in, to what our relationship looks like with Amazon is an incredible thing. So I think guns blazing coming out of the gates this next year, you're going to see a lot of interesting things coming from Deepwatch, new technologies that are going to be built, even more competitive differentiators than anyone else that we, compete against that are out there. And then some of the other unique programs that are out there, like built-in, is phenomenal for our customers. Our ability to onboard a customer in a matter of minutes or hours versus waiting for them to fix their AWS environment could be 6 weeks to 3 months. Like just the speed to security that we're going to have forward because of co-building technology with AWS, I'm very, very excited about. Leaning into a bunch of those betas I talked about but didn't talk about, very excited to be a part of those and building, again, those next technologies. How do we build a faster, more secure world on AWS is what I'm really, really excited about. And one of the things I've always said, again, having all those different tools and whatnot, you still need experts, which is really the Deepwatch value proposition for customers that are trying to leverage their business and do business transformation on AWS. With AWS, you can build the fastest race cars in the freaking world, but unless you have a really good driver, it's not going to go anywhere, right? And that's kind of the Deepwatch value proposition in a matter of sense to AWS customers that are looking to secure those workloads. Those are, I'd say, the challenges. A lot of those big changes that are coming that we're already aware of that in the partner community, and then of course some of the huge advantages, right? I think last note there, and I'd say I'm really excited about the reduction in marketplace fees. For us partners, there wasn't a lot of ROI behind the higher transaction fees as an emerging partner. It was actually a decelerator to a lot of the emerging partners. And then so Ruba Borno's reduction to that 3 to 1.5 based off of that sliding scale of under $1 million to over 10 million and renewals, that's fantastic. Especially for us partners that are 100% channel, where you're paying a partner and you're paying AWS in the marketplace. That's something I'm really excited about. It'll help all partners become more comp neutral, and it should be less of a decelerator, more of an accelerator to be able to help partners, retire their EDP or PPA commitments to AWS, work on things like MPOP, credit accelerators through marketplace. So I think a lot of the changes that are coming are really fantastic. The new technologies they've released, and of course the intimate relationship that we have with AWS to be into some of those things you haven't even heard about yet.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, Brett, it's been incredible to see the growth that you guys have had. You are obvious, you know a lot of the ins and outs of, how to make it as a partner within the AWS field. I'm really excited to see your success for next year, especially with, I know there's one thing you and I can both agree is that ACE and AWS are always bringing in changes, but I think, they do it in a way to see like who wants to continue having skin in the game. So if you don't keep up with those changes and the requirements, then you fall behind. So thank you for coming on today and providing us with the wealth of knowledge. And for our partnership, it's been a pleasure working with you these past 12 months, and then excited for next year for us.
Yeah, you too. Great note to close up there, right? That's exactly why we have the relationship. I'm not a software development house that wants to manage ACE integrations. That's why we have a partnership with you guys to help scale the vision and then take care of the things that I'm just not good at.
Yeah.
So thank you for the relationship, and thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's do a quick check to see if there's any questions from the audience. Chip, how's it looking out there?
Yeah, so this has been a fantastic, yes, there are. This has been a fantastic session. Thank you, Brett, for sharing. Man, you are just like a bank of knowledge.
He's a walking book, Chip. He knows so much.
You're like Fort Knox. No, just amazing, amazing knowledge and really sharing a ton with everyone. So we have one from Mitch Green, which I'm curious about myself. So were there certain organizations or senior executives at AWS that you went after, like to get their attention? Like, did you target certain? You're obviously in the security space, so you want to go after the security organization, but when you were getting started, was that part of the strategy to like target certain people and certain organizations?
Oh yeah, 100%. And that was a huge part of our incremental growth. I'd say one of my absolute, or a couple of my absolute favorite champions are on the partner side, your ISM, PSM leaders of leaders, the people that are in the field. So absolutely, like I said, those are my people. Like I love, like Joey Angel has been such a big, champion for us, an executive sponsor for Deepwatch, and trying to keep our secrets safe in the Southeast as we were really firing off and the secrets out. So lots of people clawing at us, right? And big champions all the way up. Lots of great advice from Rachel Scaff, Chief Partner Officer in North America, and giving me a lot of guidance on what to do more with Deepwatch. And then the security leaders, so like Ryan Orsi, right? Our relationship started really close together right after I came over here at Deepwatch when Ryan was, one of just a couple, maybe one or two people under his organization, and now he's big, right? He's way up there in the stacks, got a huge team underneath him, and being part of that level 1 MSSP growth and his guidance and understanding the ins and outs and all the little tips and tricks we shared with each other over time has been absolutely incredible in the relationship. So I'd say, in kind of 3 levels, the security side, right? Where do we fit? Where do we have the strongest playground to be able to get into more betas and more pilots and things like that? So that security leadership has been, instrumental in our relationship. From being in the security partner advisory board with AWS now is incredible. Being part of the executive summit with AWS every year is incredible. And a lot of that came from these special relationships and invites. That second level is after I went through my divisional placement to understand where's my freaking playground. Do I need to go talk to SMB and startup and over here and over there? No, I needed to be in the enterprise engaged and the enterprise greenfield spaces. So spending time with, Sean Finnegan's team, Patrick Fidel in the Southeast, Andrea, Brett Morris, Chrissy, Kimberly, just so many great ISM teammates that have been so really in big champions for us. They want to see us win. We know how to help them win. It's just a really good relationship. And of course, the last level, all those other really strong sales relationships that you have or you're going to gain. And that's one last word of advice there. Find your champions. Don't try to go all national as an emerging partner. Pick a region where you've got customers. Pick a region where you've got some hooks into business. Start there. Just find 1 or 2. Find success. Rinse and repeat, and just get bigger and bigger, and let the snowball kind of come down the other side of the mountain and really get moving.
That's awesome, and I love you threw out a lot of names that we know, but it's not like, hey, go after all those people, because they may not be the right person for your business and for your area of expertise, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, again, all part of your divisional placement. Where's your playground? Are you in security? What's your vertical, right? Are you under a MONA? Are you under are you a CS? Are you a GSI, a consulting partner? Figure out where that's at, and then start finding your champions in those different divisions.
Yeah, fantastic. Let me see. Let me see. We've got another question that just came in. Cliff Armstrong, thank you. How would your recommended strategies change, if at all, for SaaS vendor listing and transacting on the marketplace? Sure.
Do more.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to measure you. The more that you can do. Now there's lower fees. Obviously, public transactions, when you get them, they're fantastic, but rare, depending on what your vertical is from a SaaS perspective. And then for as many marketplace private offers as possible, consulting partner private offers as possible, right? And even from an AWS seller perspective, CPPO is a great thing, because that actually hits multiple MBOs at one time. So now you've got ISV, you've got a partner attached win plus marketplace and ISV Accelerate, or maybe one of the other programs you might be in. So I think that the strategy change, if at all, is to do more. AWS that's a serious point of measure coming into 2024, and you're going to get a lot more love the higher you move up the ranking with either via transactions or total contract value. Well, ARR is really how they measure it. So I would increase as much as possible, drive them through there, and then change the behavior. So if you don't have accelerators, that's a deeper conversation for DISTI models and all that kind of stuff. One of the things I've seen that's really successful is a comp positive approach to AWS Marketplace, where a lot of people can be neutral, but there's a lot of advantages to pushing and transacting on the AWS Marketplace, not only for yourself, but for the customers. And again, your relationship is a direct line of measurement from how many transactions you're doing with AWS Marketplace.
Fantastic. Gosh, Brett, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time, and Cressida, amazing job in, your conversation. But, you're, first of all, you're a natural, but you guys have been working together for a year, so built a really, really nice relationship. And thank you both for sharing your thoughts on the journey and just really wise, sage advice, Brett. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
thank
me.
you, Brett.
Appreciate you
All
guys.
right. Well, thank you all for joining as well. I think with that, I think we'll wrap. The only thing I will add is please do take our survey. We'd love to hear from you and improve every time. So please do fill out the survey. The QR code is right there. I think we've dropped it into the chat as well. And with that, I think we'll sign off, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks, Brett.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
guys.
Thank you, Rory.